Today I'm going to work on making up some pulleys, and I bought some of these garage door pulleys. These are 4-inch. They're kind of the heavier style, and I wanted to kind of illustrate how a pulley system works to multiply the force. So as you pull down on this, well, this string, but I've just got it there for a illustration purposes, but as you pull down on that string, you multiply the force by increasing the distance. So as this pulley moves up, you're pulling more rope than just that distance. So that's roughly a 2 times multiplier. Now, the interesting thing is that you can use essentially any number of pulleys. But what happens is when you use an even number of pulleys, like this, you're going to fasten the free end to the anchor point. And I've kind of illustrated that here with this diagram. So there's your anchor. And if you're using 2 pulleys, one here and one here, the anchor point would be here, the rope will run around, or chain or whatever it is, runs around the bottom and then across the top, and then you apply your force that way. Now if you're using 3 pulleys, 2 at the load end, or 2 at the anchor end and 1 at the load end, then you're going to anchor the point at the load side of the pulleys. So that pulley will go up, or the rope would go up around the first pulley, around the bottom pulley, and around the second pulley on the top. And so on. If you have 2, again you anchor it at the anchor point. You anchor the rope at the anchor end of the system. It runs down around the first pulley, up around that first pulley, down around the second pulley, and up around that second pulley. And then if you have 5, it anchors at the load end, and same story. So no matter how many pulleys you have, you're going to anchor either at the anchor point or the load point, depending on how many pulleys you have. For odd number of pulleys, you anchor at the load point. For even number of pulleys, you anchor at the anchor point. And I'm going to weld up some brackets so that these pulleys can be affixed to something which you want to attach something on the load end. So there's going to have to be a hook or some kind of mechanism down there that will hook through the eye of this pulley. I suppose you could just stick the rope through the center of the pulley, or a wire or whatever, and create a simple system like that. I may do that for illustration purposes. But at the one end you'll have to have some kind of a mechanism where that can be anchored to the pulley center point in some fashion. Let's get to work. Alright, I was going to make them all like these with 2, and then I could use them at the top or the bottom, didn't matter. But what I found out was this steel I got was weld steel, and I really wanted to be getting mild steel because you can drill a hole in that. After I ruined a couple drill bits and got a couple holes in there, I thought that's not the way to go, so I kind of adjusted to making these up a little more welding, but I used some bike parts in there to get everything together. So this will be the anchor point, and then I can screw that onto whatever structure I want, and then run this down around this pulley, back up and around that pulley, and then down around this pulley. It's kind of hard to do, and I may need a shroud around these things to kind of keep the rope in place. Theoretically, once it's got a load on it, you won't need to do that, but a lot of times there'll be something around the outside to keep these in check, and so they don't fall off, because you know, after you get done with it, this piece will just be free floating, may get lost, whatever, although I suppose I could tie it to the rope on the end anyway. But anyway, that's some little blocks I want to put out in my shed to lift various things, but they're fairly easy to make if you can get steel that you can drill holes into. But you know, make some up and do some lifting. Well, I hooked my 50-pound test weight on it. Alright, I hooked my 50-pound test weight up to it, and it lifts it pretty easily, but there is a twist in these two lines that I can't seem to get rid of, and I don't think I can. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's got to cross over somewhere, I think. And maybe that's why I usually, well, I don't know if I've ever seen them in even pairs like that. But I'm going to try hooking it up with just one wheel on the bottom and see if that can solve the problem. Alright, I switched it to just one loop at the bottom and anchored at the bottom, so that's an odd number of pulleys, 2 at the top and 1 at the bottom, and then I avoid doing any of the line crossing. Now it is going to be fairly easy for me to add another pulley onto the end of the bolt up there, and I may try that and give it 3 and 2 and see if that does okay. Now, one thing that's quite clear to me is that you definitely want to have something to keep the ropes on the pulleys, because they're popping off all the time and dropping my little weight, which, you know, it's only dropping a foot or two, and it's only a little hunk of iron, so no big deal. But you wouldn't want that to happen with you know, something important up there. So I'll try that 3 and 2 situation and see if it still holds true that I'm not crossing the lines up. Well, I put that other pulley up on top, and it goes on okay, but there's not enough threads to put the nut back on the bolt. So I think I'm going to just call it, make some singles up for the bottom side. Be a little harder to lift, but if I need to make something even more heavy, I still got some options there, but I will need to get another bolt to do that.